Welcome back, everybody, to Talking Wolves. We've once again got another fantastic interview and podcast lined up with another former Wolves player. Before we kick off, though, alongside me today, as you can see, is Mr. Matt Cooper. Matt, how are you keeping?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. All good. And our guest today, ex-Wolves player, and he's been around, to be fair. Got a good number of clubs across all the levels. We've got Mr. Greg Halford. Greg, how are you keeping?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good. I didn't mean that in a bad way, by the way. Honestly,
He's been around, bloody hell.
Not a good way to start.
It is a fact.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was just looking at the clubs. I mean, you've played at pretty much every level across England, really. Like Prem, probably down to even in your early loans. Maybe National League, possibly.
Yeah, I had one game for Braintree. When I was at Colchester.
Yeah. But I mean, starting off, born in Chelmsford, if we're correct. And how did you get into football, really?
It was mainly through my school. I was actually a rugby player before I turned into football, which was around 11, 12 years old. And there was just this little leaflet going around Sunday League club and asking for players to come on. And I went and ended up signing, and the rest is history, to be honest. It's I went Sunday League and then Essex, then went to Colchester, and then the rest of the clubs after Colchester.
Greg, where did you, as a kid growing up and playing football, where were you playing? Because obviously in your professional career you played. I don't think there's a position you haven't done the job in. What was your position initially when you started playing?
Centre midfielder. I came through the youth ranks at Colchester as a midfielder, but sort of during them sort of times, I played 6 games in goal as well. Our keeper actually left to go to Spurs, so we didn't have a sub keeper. So I ended up being keeper for 6 games. I had a couple of stints up top as well, and it's been exactly like my career. Just played every position.
Yeah, I think I remember there was a stint, which we'll probably talk about a bit later. I think it was at Forest, where a couple of their strikers were injured and you played up front, and I'm pretty sure you had a decent little run up there. You was grabbing a couple of goals. I think it was a few consecutive games. You'd grabbed a couple of goals up there. But I suppose when you're that sort of height as well, you could literally do a job anywhere, couldn't you?
Yes. I mean, some positions are tricky. You don't really see too many 6'5" fullbacks nowadays.
Yeah, true.
You need to be mobile, and that was probably something that I lacked, was sort of out and out pace. I wasn't slow when I got into my stride. Like, I could keep up with the best, but it was that initial 10 yards. Someone like Matt Jarvis, who was just lighting over 10 yards.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't be able to live with him.
Yeah, we spoke to Matt last night as well, didn't we? It was a really good podcast with him. And just as your career, like you say, Colchester, getting through there, Reading, and as a player, you sort of worked your way up. Sunderland is probably where, obviously, that's where you caught the attention of Wolves, but you didn't actually play too much there. So what was the reason for leaving there? Did you think you could fight for a place, or was Sunderland sort of saying, telling you to look for a new club?
Yeah, it got to around sort of December time. So I started the season, went through until December, then played against Chelsea away. I was really ill that game, and Kino was just not having any of it. It was like, man up, or like you're coming off. So I ended up playing 90 minutes, not my best game. And then after that, sort of it turned into January, and Kino, the team went off and played an away game, and I got a call from Kino sort of saying, Norwich have come in, they want to take you on loan. Your chances are going to be limited here. And then I sort of thought, well, limited means at least one more chance. So I thought, no, I'm gonna say no to Norwich and sort of have my one more chance at Sunderland. Then Glenn Roeder, at the time, who was manager of Norwich, went after me in the press saying I was happy to just pick up my wage and not play at all, which wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And then Kino went after me for saying no when he literally said to me,
"Oh God,
well, you're not going to have another chance here now." So I was like, well, you've absolutely screwed me here. Like, I turned down like a really good club, close back to home as well. And then I ended up signing for Charlton that January and ended up playing 6 months there. Ended up playing against Wolves and against Jarvo. It's quite that famous game when Carl Henry scored that.
Oh, wow, yeah, the Ebanks Blake goal.
Where he put it through his legs and smashed it top bins,
Yeah, that's the one. So I scored in that game as well.
Yeah. We only talk about it.
And Mick remembered that game, and sort of that summer, they obviously made an approach for me. No, was it that summer?
You were Sheffield United, wasn't it?
No, yeah, it was Sheffield United. So, yeah, he kept tabs on me after that game. I spent the season on loan at Sheffield United, where I did well, player of the season, top scorer. And then, yeah, it was down to whether or not I'd stay at Sunderland or go to Wolves. I thought just too many bridges had been burnt at Sunderland. You know, the new manager had come in, which was Steve Bruce. He said he was more than willing for me to go back in. But I just felt like I needed a new challenge, and you know, it was a challenge.
Yeah. Before we move on to your time at Wolves, what was Keano like as a bloke? Now we see him as this media personality, bit of an anger merchant. What was he like in and around the place? Is that what he's actually like, or is he a completely different bloke?
No, he's a completely different bloke. He stays away from the players as much as possible, no interaction. It's quite annoying as well, because sort of after a game on a Saturday, you wouldn't see him again until Thursday at training. He lived in Manchester, so it was a long commute over to Sunderland. And then when he was there, the Sunderland training ground, because it's on the coast, it's so windy, so there's big banks, like it's like a bowl, and he'd just sit at the top and just overwatch training, no speaking, no coaching, nothing.
That's strange, isn't it?
As a player though, do you prefer a manager who's really hands-on? I'd imagine Mick was probably more hands-on, or is, I don't know, would you react better to probably not with Mick McCarthy, but like a manager similar to Mick, or would you prefer to be managed by someone like Roy Keane, who just lets the players get on with it and there's less contact time?
Nah, I think sort of being a manager, you need to be involved with the lads to a certain extent. You know, you can't go from one extreme to the other. There has to be a happy medium. And you know, Mick was really good, to be fair. But yeah, Keano was just non-existent.
Yeah, that is really, really odd. But let's talk about you. Obviously, you moved to Wolves. You had a really good season at Sheffield United, and Wolves come in. How did you feel when Wolves come in? And was there any other clubs in for you at the time, or was it just Wolves who were, you know, that's a club I want to be at?
There were a few other clubs. Obviously, Sheffield United wanted to take me as well, but obviously that was in the Championship after losing the playoff final. Could have gone back to Sunderland, and there was a couple of other clubs as well. But I just felt like with Mick, you know, he sold me the club. You know, big club, good fan base, new to the Premier League. You know, he wanted to have players who had Premier League experience. So the likes of me, Kevin Doyle, Marcus Hanneman, people like that who played in the Prem before were going to be vital for him.
So when you first met Mick, and Matt Jarvis said the same yesterday. He said as soon as he met Mick, he knew that Wolves were the club for him. What kind of first impression did you get with Mick?
Just someone who really wanted me to be there and be part of his plans going on. You know, we had a few jokes about Keano. Obviously, they had their sort of in the island.
In the island setup,
Yeah, so, you know, we had a few laughs about that. But yeah, it was just nice and easy, and, you know, he's full on when he has to be full on, but he can make a joke and be one of the lads as well. And, you know, you look at some of the interviews that he does, you know, they're classy. Like, he knows how to, he's a people person.
Yeah.
and he knows what to say at the right times.
What was how did the first interaction come across, or the first contact from Wolves, Greg? Because Matt was saying that he was about to go on a lads' holiday, and when Mick McCarthy asked him to meet him in Portugal, but for you, was it as glamorous as that, or was it just, can you meet us in Wolverhampton to talk?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I think we had a phone call first. Then I drove down to Wolves from Durham, where I was living at the time. And then, I pretty much ended up signing on the spot. He spoke really highly about the club and everything, and the project that he wanted to do. He spoke highly about me, the plans that he wanted for me. And yeah, I pretty much signed on the dotted line straight away. And, I was announced in Australia, which was something very new for everyone.
Oh yeah, I remember those little pre-season trips to Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, the last couple of clubs you were at, Sheffield United, Sunderland, they're still pretty big clubs, and in terms of infrastructure,
Yeah.
I'd assume they were, up there as well. How his first impressions of Wolves as a club, was there anything like any key differences, or the city, or how you were living? Were there any key differences to those last couple of places that you've been playing at?
No, not massive differences. Obviously, Wolves had run away with the league the season before. And I saw the way they played. When it comes down to it, a footballer wants to look at a club and see how the way they play, and if they can fit in, and if they believe they can fit in, then they're going to jump at the chance.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. After having such a productive season at Sheffield as an attacking player, for a season, pretty much that was my first real season as an attacking player, and to get a Prem move on the back of that, I was jumping at the chance, and to play alongside some of the players who I'd known and played against that season, I was really, really excited for the challenge.
You're probably just grateful you didn't have to come up against Matt Jarvis again, only in training.
Yeah. It was a strange one, because going back to Charlton, I had a really good game, and one of the first things Mick said to me when I met up with him at the stadium was, I didn't give Jarvo a kick that game, and that's the thing that stood out for him more than anything. He said, when I was at Colchester and I had all these teams looking at me, he saw I had weaknesses, and he didn't really entertain me that much. And then when he saw me up close against Jarvo and not give him a kick, that pretty much sealed the deal for him.
Yeah. When obviously when you signed for Wolves, did Mick give you any kind of did you speak about guarantees about your playing time, or what position that he saw you? Because obviously, you played right midfield and right back at Wolves, but did Mick say I'm signing you as a wide player?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it came down to. He saw me as a wide player, predominantly on the right. Most of the pre-season I played as a wide right player. But he knew, obviously, from my history, that I could fill in at right back if Folds at the time would get injured, or centre back or centre midfield or anywhere. But he predominantly saw me as a right midfielder because of the season that I had before. But when it comes down to guarantees, there's never any guarantees in football. And any player that tells you that he does have a guarantee in his contract that he has to play is just absolutely bullshit.
So that first season in the Prem game, obviously, on opening day we lost 2-0 to West Ham. Stopped up in the end quite comfortably. Had a good season. What was the culture like in the dressing room? Was it? Jarbo said last night that it was just a good laugh 24/7. But what was it like for you? Would you echo those thoughts? Was it just a good place to be around?
Yeah, the lads were great. Everyone got on well with everyone. We all lived around the same sort of area. Nowhere out of half an hour radius of Wolverhampton. So we spent a lot of time in each other's company away from the football ground as well.
Yeah.
But I think it was a lot of players, that first 90 minutes was a real wake up call. Like, we're here now, we're in the Prem. Like, we need to start stepping up. And the West Ham game wasn't too bad. You know, obviously the results probably says differently, but the performance on the day wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And I think it was it Wigan after that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
beat Wigan, yeah.
Won the game.
Yeah.
Didn't Keogh score? Andy Keogh scored.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, like, I think I came off on that game, and I remember I was sitting next to Wardy, and he was like, "Right, that's our first 3 points. On to the next." And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the West Ham game because Lee Bowyer scored a screamer from outside the area, and as fans, you're thinking, "Fucking hell, like, first season back in the Premier League. It's not like this every week." But
was that for West Ham or Birmingham?
That was for West Ham.
Back then, wasn't it?
No, I think he scored for West Ham as well. Is it West Ham at the time?
What was he?
Someone scored a screamer from outside the area, but I'm not sure.
After maybe, I don't know.
I think because he was at West Ham as well, wasn't he? But after that first game, Greg, like you said, it's like it's 2-0, but you've actually played all right. Do you come off from that game thinking a little bit disheartened, or are you like, right, we've just got another game, let's go again against Wigan?
I mean, obviously losing your first Premier League game is a little disheartening, but then we took the positives from the game that we weren't out of our depth.
Yeah.
We just needed to convert our chances. We had to be more ruthless in both boxes, and we picked that up fairly quickly, I think.
Yeah, I've just checked, mate. It was, I think, Mark Noble might have been the guy.
It's similar, Barney.
Yeah. But I mean, you had a decent amount of games that first season, Greg. Your first season was that. I mean, 15 games, 16 in all comps. Did you sign thinking you were going to be playing more than that, or did you sort of join the club knowing that it was going to be difficult to break into the first team regularly?
Both. You can't go into a club and automatically think that I'm going to automatically start and play every game. But I was coming into the team after the manager was sort of saying that I'd be quite a big focal point to the team. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was because I found it in my early days really, really tough to move from club to club literally every 6 months.
Yeah.
I went from Reading in January to Sunderland in summer to Charlton in January to Sheffield United in summer to Wolves in the summer. That's 5 moves in 4 transfer. That's 4 moves in 5 transfer windows. And I found it really, really, really tough to sort of settle down and get my feet under the table and give me that opportunity to be able to bed myself in a little bit. But because we were so new to the Prem, it felt like I was under the pressure to be able to deliver instantaneously, and it got to a point where I thought sort of the pressure was a bit too much, and I needed maybe a little bit more time, maybe another 6 months to actually get my feet under the table and start performing to how everybody knew what I could do.
Yeah, because at the time as well, you're still a relatively young player as well, weren't you? You're not coming into your prime at all. Like you said, it must have been for you to go from club to club and then just expect to bed in, especially in the Premier League at such a high level. But obviously, you played a decent amount of games in your first season at Wolves. What do you think changed in your second season? Was there any dialogue with Mick to say, look, we're bringing in X, Y, Z, your playing time's going to be limited, or what happened?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I came back that pre-season. I was flying that pre-season. I remember going up to Hearts, I think it was, in Scotland, creating a couple of goals, scoring a free kick. And Mick was really happy with me, and I changed a lot of stuff in my personal life, like dietary wise, sleeping wise. I was a lot more professional, and honestly, I was flying, and yeah, I literally had no idea. We didn't really have any dialogue with each other. We didn't fall out. There was no arguments. There was literally nothing.
How does that make you feel as a player, though? When you've had a good season, your first season back in the Prem, pre-season you're flying, and then you find yourself out of favour. Is that really hard to dust yourself off, or not to take it personally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult. Yeah, it's really difficult because how can you take it other than personally? Because you feel like you're flying in pre-season. You've been told that you're flying in pre-season by management and media and fans, and then not to really get a kick that season. Where would your mind go? And it would be personally. It's like manager doesn't like me as a person. I'm doing everything I can in training. It's like, what can you do? So, yeah, it just got to a point where sort of I lost faith and just really didn't want to be there anymore. I was a bit bitter, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think as Wolves fans, we understand that bitterness, especially from like some of the things that you've said in the past on Twitter about Wolves, which we'll come on to. But I think that might give a little. He's laughing, but we don't know the ins and outs. All we see is someone taking the piss out of our club or trying to wind us. So I mean, I was only a nipper at the time, but at what point do you then say to Mick, like? Or did you say to Mick, look, I want out, I want to move? Or did Mick come to you and say, look, we're moving you on? Or how does that work? Or how did it work?
Honestly, I can't really remember. I don't remember too much about it. It was, I think Portsmouth came in, where would it have been? Emergency loan, I think. In November.
Yeah, October, it says here. Yeah.
October. And then Mick was like, well, Portsmouth are coming for you. What do you think? And I didn't, at that point, I didn't really want to go because Portsmouth was struggling in the Championship. And, I was training well at Wolves, but then, you have to think about your career and where it's going and the age I'm at, and this was an opportunity to go and play football, and I'd made that mistake with Norwich previously at Sunderland, so I felt like I had to go, and it was an emergency loan, so I'd be back in January and would go from there.
And obviously, you didn't come back in January, did you? Or you did?
I came back for I came back for a week. I had a 4 weeks training session, and then obviously sort of Mick said that you're not going to be playing, so make a decision on what you want to do.
Must be tough as a player, though. Like, obviously, Wolves are coming to a Premier League club, and you've not really, from what you say, put a foot wrong, and then to be kind of cast away, it must really be tough. Do you think that's why you said you were so like just bitter about your time at Wolves, purely because like it wasn't due to the fact that you'd done anything?
When it comes down to the facts, is that I wasn't playing well enough to be able to warrant my name on the team sheet on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So obviously Mick made the decision on, right, we've given him enough chances. Make the decision on what he wants to do. Yeah, it was just I had to make a decision on what I wanted to do, and again, it was still only a loan for 6 months at Portsmouth, so it wasn't going to be the worst decision in the world. Going out playing football every single week, and and then coming back in the summer and see what happens. And I was playing the majority as a centre back at Portsmouth, so I thought, well, if I play well here, then it gives me another avenue back into the team at Wolves as a centre back, which I knew they were looking for in the summer. And then, I ended up signing for Portsmouth in the summer and saying some regretful things, shall we say. But I have all this banter with the Wolves fans on Twitter, and it literally is banter. I don't take anything personally, and I look for that sort of chew. I want someone biting on something that I say, and it's so easy sometimes because they're just wanting to say something bad about me. But then I think it was a couple of years ago when I did put out, look, someone tweeted me, a Wolves fan, and I said, look, I've got nothing against the Wolves fans. One little bit, I said some not bad stuff, but regrettable stuff when I left, and it's all water under the bridge, and I hope the club will every success and always have done, and we move on from there.
What's your since leaving? What's your relationship been like, or had been like with McCarthy? Did the whole experience at Wolves sort of taint that slightly, or do you still is he still someone? I'm not going to say respect, because I think you'll respect him regardless. But like, would you ever be able to rebuild a relationship there? Do you think in the future, if you had the opportunity?
He wanted to sign me for Ipswich.
Oh, did he?
No, listen, I've got the utmost respect for Mick. I don't like the way that he treated me when I was there. Sort of for the last 18 months while I was there. But these things happen in football, and you have to try and move past that. And Mick's an unbelievable manager. You look at stuff that he's doing with Cardiff now, what he did with Ipswich, what he did when he went back to Ireland. These things don't happen by chance. He's a good manager, and he has a good team around him with TC. And you put him in the right environment, and he's going to do wonders for you. And he was at Ipswich. He was managing pretty much with one hand tied behind his back, with finances and everything. So, he's an unbelievable manager. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for him. And we've spoken a few times when I've gone down and played against Ipswich. And we've been fine together.
Did he ever apologise, Greg? Did he ever apologise for that? How he dealt with the experience at Wolves, or is that something managers normally do?
No, managers very rarely apologise, but in that situation, he did what he thought was best for the team, and if that's his thinking, then you're not going to get an apology out of anyone. So, no apology, and I don't expect one, to be honest with you.
No, that's fair enough. I know we spoke before we come on, and think something. I think the start of maybe the feud between, I say feud, you putting tweets out about Wolves and Wolves fans fighting. Was it a comment that you made when Wolves signed Roger Johnson? Is that correct? Because obviously you said you wanted to come back as Wolves in draft, and then they signed Roger Johnson. Was it, or did he get blown out of proportion?
No, there was a couple of parts to that interview. I sort of said I'd signed for a bigger club, but taken a step backwards in terms of leagues, which the fans didn't like. And that I only really said that because of Portsmouth had been in 2 of the last 3 FA Cup finals and won one of them. So that was a genuine thought that I had. It was because they'd won clubs in like sort of in the future. Well, not in the future, but closer to the past and everything like that. I just assumed that it was a bigger club, but I took a step backwards in terms of leagues. And then the second part of that was obviously the Roger Johnson thing, saying I didn't understand why they paid sort of $6 million for Roger Johnson when I felt that I was just as good, if not better, centre back while I had my time at Portsmouth.
Yeah, mate. To be fair, he didn't have a great time at Wolves, did Roger Johnson? But have you ever crossed Roger Johnson's path after those comments? Anything been said? If you're saying there that you're better than him.
No, but as a professional, I'd expect him to say exactly the same thing about me.
Yeah.
You know, you have to think that you're better than someone else, otherwise you're just not going to get anywhere in the game. But funny enough, like Roger Johnson lives around the corner from me still. So I'm still in Birmingham. So yeah, he lives around the corner from me. I see him out walking his dog all the time. He sees me walking my dogs all the time. So, but we've never really had a chat about it. We've never been in that sort of situation where we had the chance to chat or to talk about football or what happened or anything like that. So no, to answer your question, no, I haven't.
He still lives in Four Oaks, doesn't he, Roger Johnson?
Yeah, that's where I'm.
I live around the corner from you, mate.
Oh, do you?
Do you know the Asda Questley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I live opposite there, mate, on the Neverall estate. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I might see you out. I'll thank you in person. And like you said, you put tweets out about Wolves, and I think there was one that was about like, to all you Wolves bellends giving me stick, Portsmouth will always be. Sorry, always giving me stick. Like Portsmouth will always be a bigger club. And then I think there was, because you come to Molineux with Cardiff, didn't you? In Nuno's first season at Wolves, and you got a result, and you put something out. I think you may have put something out then. Was that for you when you put the second tweet out? Was it just because you were getting so much probably abuse before the game, during the game, after the game? For you, was it right? I'm on my own back now.
Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously the Bellends part was obviously really harsh, and I regret saying that in particular. But the tweet in a roundabout way, I still stand by it. If I'm going to be getting all this stick, then expect something back, at least something. But yeah, I can't go around calling fans bellends and whatever. So, I had a chance to come back. I was at Forest as well, and we were supposed to play Wolves at Molineux, and literally a day before in training, I pulled my calf. And the amount of abuse I got from the Wolves fans saying like I was like shitting myself for coming back, or like, I couldn't handle the pressure or stuff like that. It was just, and stuff like that sort of really mounts on you, and like you do have a breaking point. And after that game with Cardiff and at Molineux, and obviously that incredible season that both of us had that season.
Yeah.
It piled on, and that it hit my breaking point.
I don't blame you, mate. I think a lot of fans see footballers as not people, just an account, and they can say whatever they want to them. Like you've just said, that the Bellend tweet you regret. But if you'd have scored against Wolves, would you have celebrated, Greg?
Yeah.
I was going to say, of course you would, yeah.
100%.
Would you celebrate against any other former club?
Sunderland.
You'd celebrate against Sunderland. Is there anyone else that you wouldn't celebrate?
I scored for Cardiff. I scored against Portsmouth, and I didn't celebrate. That was the winner as well in extra time. Colchester would be one. Obviously, they gave me my platform in football. and probably Sheffield United as well. And do you know what? Most of them, apart from Wolves and Sunderland.
Wolves. I love it. I absolutely love it. Did you play in the? I can't remember because I was like, it was such a delirious game. The game where Wolves played Cardiff at the Cardiff City Stadium.
I was on the bench,
mate. What happened that game? Like, how did you feel knowing obviously Wolves, and you've got a little bit of bite with Wolves fans. Obviously, probably a bit more of an incentive for you to win the game. With Medine and Hoylett missing those penalties in extra time, how do you feel after that? Or what was going through your head?
Honestly, we were devastated. Like, I was raging doubly. Not only did we lose to Wolves and lose a bit of ground on them, but like after the first penalty, I was like to Warnock and the management, like, get me on. And if I was on the pitch for that second penalty, like, that was me. Like, I would have been on the penalty. And yeah, so obviously without not making it about myself, I mean, I was doubly angry about it because, one, I didn't get on the pitch. Two, I didn't have a penalty. Three, we lost. Four, we lost to my former team. And five, we lost track on the team that we were like trying to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I remember that game. It was just one of those for Wolves fans. I think we knew almost that was when we sort of almost secured, at least if not promotion, the title. What was the? I mean, Matt knows, and people knowing know. Like, I'm a big fan of Warnock. What was his mood like after the game? Because obviously he had that little spat with Nuno. I think they sorted it out after. But in the changing room after, can you remember how he reacted to that?
He was. I mean, he was really down. You know, he felt bad for Medine because that would have been his first goal for the club. You know, we would have got a point out the game. Then he kind of like, I think he was really angry with Junior as well because obviously he'd been there a longer period. He scored more goals. You know, he'd expect better from him. But I think it was just more disappointment than anything else because it was a really close game. You know, one team didn't really deserve to win the game. Like, a draw probably would have been a fair result, just like the reverse fixture at Molineux. But yeah, losing ground and you know, pretty much not handing the title to Wolves, but sort of giving them the title. It was a big advantage, and you know, we had everything to do to try and secure that second place.
Yeah, obviously the first game, I think Mendes Lang scored, I believe, against Wolves because he started his career at Wolves, and then the second game Wolves won. What was it like playing against that Wolves team? Because we look back now, and we had players like Willy Bowley, Ruben Neves, Diogo Jota. Was it a tough team to play against? And was any like a particular player in that team you thought, wow, he's a good player?
Yeah, Neves. You couldn't get close to him in that league. Yeah, you could not get close to him. You know, even though it was the same team, it wasn't the same team. If that makes sense to you, because it was still a very new team at the beginning of the season when we played them at Molineux. You know, we kind of had a bit of an advantage, but just the quality that the players had, they didn't really have to gel that much as a team to pull out results. But then, sort of that reverse fixture at Cardiff, they were a proper team, you know, as well as having the quality. And, you know, it was an unbelievable free kick from Neves in the first half. But I generally don't remember them having any more chances that game. Maybe that's just me thinking about just us missing the two penalties. But
we had a good chance. I think it was Helder Costa. He went through on goal and he put it wide. Like, I think he killed
it was
put it wide. And then that's when you boys got the penos. And I still can't believe it. When I was there first one, I thought we got away with that, and then when he give Mike Dean as well, when he give the second one, I'm like, it was ridiculous. That was. But as a player for Cardiff, that would have been. I can't even imagine what that was like.
The first game, Greg, when you come to Molineux, I remember watching that, and Neil Warnock and what he's about and the way he sets his team up, and I'll come away from that game thinking, right, they've done a job on us there. Like they've come with a game plan, and they've smashed us to bits. Like obviously played well, but did Warnock say to you before the game, right, get into these? Like there's bloody foreign lads from Portugal and stuff like that. What did Warnock say to you? Because it was a good performance. I mean, the first game, to be fair, and the second game was close as well.
Yeah, I mean, that game, I remember Mendes played out of his skin, obviously going back to his old club and scoring that goal. But no, there was no real difference to sort of tactics or the way we approached that game. We did that to every team that season. You know, we weren't the best footballing team, but we would outpower you, we would outrun you, we would bully you, we'd win more headers, win more tackles, and that's pretty much what our game was based on, was being dirty, but on the good side, if that makes sense. We'd do all the ugly stuff really, really well, and then teams wouldn't be able to cope with us, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Wolves still struggle with now. It's those dark arts. I just think that we're too much of a nice team, and we've seen teams, especially like Spurs under Jose, and they did exactly the same as what Cardiff did to us that game. It did remind me of that. But what's Neil Warnock like to be managed by, Greg? Because we see loads of clips of him online from the documentaries and stuff. But what's he like?
He signed you twice as well, Greg, hasn't he? Sorry,
just once. He inherited me at Rotherham.
Oh, that was it. Sorry, he's he's managed you twice. Sorry, yeah.
What's he like?
He's unbelievable. Like I think about this quite a lot. I genuinely don't know what he does to make his teams unbelievable or so hard to play against. His psychology as a man to other players is just, I've never seen anything like it. He'll make you run through brick walls if you're a sub. Even if you're in the stands, he'll make you run through brick walls and you'd want to do it. And it's something that I don't know how he does it, because he'll probably say, and his coaching staff will probably say, they're not the best coaches in the world. But the relationship that they have with the players is just better than anyone else's. And because you respect them that much, you're going to do what they say they want you to do. And that's pretty much run through a brick wall and overpower teams. And he's done it his entire career. And it's unbelievable, to be honest with you. I genuinely don't know how he does it, but as a person and as a manager, he is by far the best I've ever worked with.
That was going to be my next question. Is Warnock the best manager that you've worked under? You say so, yeah.
Yeah, as a manager and as a person who interacts with his players, yeah, he goes far beyond anyone else. In terms of coaches, actually hands-on doing sessions and teaching you about the game. There's other managers that are better than him that I've had, but the whole round manager, sort of in brackets, is just he's by far the best.
When obviously you've played all through the divisions, is there any particular players that stand out for you that you played against or even with that you're like, wow, he's a serious player? Is there any a couple that stick out for you?
I mean, I've played with some absolute Premier League legends. You look at Carnu at Portsmouth, Dwight York and Andy Cole at Sunderland. That's not a bad front three to have, is it? So, obviously I've played with some unbelievable players, and you can go to Jarvo. He's got an England cap.
Yeah.
Like, he was unbelievable. And the unsung heroes, especially in that Wolves side, the people like the Jody Craddocks, the Stephen Wards, the Foleys of that team, like Carl Henry. They can't go under the radar because what they did for the team put them on a platform where the bigger, more influential players can go and do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that conversation with Matt last night, and I said that Carl Henry used to get quite a lot of stick from Wolves fans, and pretty unwarranted because he was outspoken. But I think he was very an underappreciated player, especially in the Premier League. He was brilliant. But is there a particular player at Wolves that stood out for you as like he's probably say Jarvis? You're like, yeah, he's a proper player, like technically fantastic.
Yeah, technically, like. He had the crossing both feet, like the amount of goals he scored with his left foot, cutting inside. He scored a lot of goals like that. And if he had someone one-on-one, there's a cross going to be coming in or an end product. But I think, Doyle was so underrated as well. His movement and his... I mean, he didn't score as many as he did at Reading when he was in the Prem, but his movement and his ability to hold the ball up, and he wasn't massive, but he's still one of my favourite players to play with, because you knew he'd be able to hold it up.
Yeah, I remember against United, he'd playing against Vidic, and every single time he'd get his body in front of him and bring the ball down. I've never seen a first touch like it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say with Dort, he was underappreciated because I remember the first year or two. I think before we signed Stephen Fletcher, he finished top goal scorer for those seasons, and it was almost like you say, his goal contributions probably didn't warrant as good as he played. Really, I think he did a lot more for the team, and he was winning those flick-ons for the person to get the assist or for the person to get the goal. Really, but is there? I know it's been about 10. Go on, sorry, Greg. Yeah, I know it's been about 10 years now since you've left Wolves. Is there anyone from that squad that you still keep in touch with on a fairly regular basis?
Yeah, a lot of us still live around the same area. I speak to Steers quite a lot. I saw Wardy in the first lockdown, sort of biking around Four Oaks. Who else? Foles I've spoken to Foles quite a bit before he went out to the States.
Yeah.
Me and Carl Henry, before I got back into football, I took that year out. Me and Carl Henry used to play five-a-sides with some of the lads like Foles and who else came down? A couple of others. I can't remember who came
five-a-side.
No. I know, especially against, honestly, Carl in the five-a-side, he's as competitive as he was when he was in the Prem. Like, he'd want to win every challenge, run further than anyone else, score more than anyone. Honestly, I genuinely don't get it. Like, it's a five-a-side. It's supposed to be fun, and he's taking it so. He's talking tactics before games, before the games start. But yeah, there's a fair few lads that I'm still in contact with. Yeah,
you'd like to think as professional footballers, you've probably got an edge over the people you're playing anyway, without putting any kind of like philosophy together, playing down goals.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun to be around and see him have this competitive edge. I just didn't get it. I genuinely didn't get it. Like, I was like, I'm here to play fun. I've paid subs to be here. Like, I just want to just have a little friendly kickabout, and Cole's going in, slide tackling on AstroTurf. Yeah. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here?
It was crazy. I still remember when he nearly killed Jordy Gomez away at Wigan with that tackle. He took him out from like the hip. Bloody hell. You said you're living in, obviously you still live up in Birmingham now, but you're at Southend. Just, you want to update everyone, like, what are you playing at Southend now? How are you getting on?
Yeah, so when was it? After I left Cardiff, I went to Aberdeen. Spent sort of 4 months there. Hated it. didn't enjoy anything away from family. No one up there, didn't know anyone, didn't play much, and then I just fell out of love with the game. So I took a year out of the game, tried a couple of different things, and then I just felt like I was missing something. So I tried getting back into it. Went to Walsall literally 3 days before first lockdown, and then that obviously got carboshed. So ended up going back to Walsall for pre-season, not expecting to get anything, just wanted some fitness, and then literally put out an SOS on LinkedIn, and Southend came calling, and I ended up signing for Southend, and back home in Chelmsford, kind of half temporarily living in Chelmsford while I'm training at Southend. And it's tough at the minute for us. We were in an transfer embargo for pretty much 6 months of the season, and they were playing. I think they had 8 professionals, like full-time professionals. Otherwise, it was just kids. So we didn't get off to the greatest of starts in the season, and it's catching up on us. But we had a good result on Tuesday against Morecambe away, 1-1, 6 games left, and it's all to play for to try and stay in that league.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think before we wrap up, Greg, I'll give you the opportunity to address the Wolves fans. There's been a lot of water under the bridge. You've kind of explained your comments and etc. and stuff like that. It's been great to have you on and hear your story. But if you could say anything to Wolves fans now, because there's going to be quite a lot listening to this, what have you got a message to the Wolves fans? Probably try to stay away from calling them bellends again, Greg. But
yeah, first of all, I want to apologise for obviously the name calling. That was probably uncalled for. But I still want to have banter with everyone on Twitter, and just don't bite too much. But I just, I wish the best for the club. It was still a huge part of my career, and I'm privileged to say that I played for the club and got to wear that badge. Not as many times as I would have liked, but it's still a privilege. And every team that I played for, I hold close to my heart, and Wolves are no exception.
That's wicked, mate. I mean, I feel like it needs to be said, because, like we said, we've not heard anything really from you in the press or anything. And I know among Wolves fans, I don't know, it is Greg. He's put them tweets out, but glad we've addressed it. Like you said, it's just banter and stop biting. We get bitten at loads, mate. So I completely understand that. But yeah, Greg, it's been fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Thanks for your time again.
No worries at all.
If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and a comment down below. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe. But until then, we'll catch you soon.